Welcome back to BunkaiGaming, this is Matt. So today I want to talk a little bit further about the Division, and specifically the two things I want to talk about is survival mode and also the named gear and weapons that are dropping within the game, or at least the drop rate that it is within the game. One of the things that with the new survival mode is a very intense and fun gameplay session that you can have, but trying to find a group for this game mode can be very difficult at times. It's mainly luck of the draw. Sometimes you can just fall into a group very easily and go through it very quickly and get out of there and have fun. Other times it can be a very long wait to find a group. Even then, when you do find a group, you have people drop out because they don't want to wait that long, or it can take a huge amount of time to be able to match a group into a game itself, and then again you hit this problem where people just don't want to wait that long. So you find more often than not it's just easier to go into the mode via yourself or solo and then go through and play it that way. And it is a very daunting experience going in solo and trying to complete this game mode itself. There's lots of tips and tricks that I've heard people say about going to specific areas or doing a specific thing which will guarantee you that you can get to the end game. But that doesn't necessarily apply. You could walk out the safe house straight after spawning in and run into a great many high level enemies and die within seconds. You may find that within 5 minutes you've died because you cannot find a fire to get near and warm yourself up, and again you will die very quickly. This is part and parcel of the game mode, so don't be put off by that if you find the first few times that as you familiarize yourself that you die very quickly. Persistence is something that's very important in this game mode, but one thing that I've learned that works very effectively is what they call playing the long game. A lot of people will gear up very quickly, run into the dark zone, try to get the antiviral and then get it out. But you'll find more often than not they're undergeared and they won't be prepared for when they actually encounter the hunters themselves. And this happened to me very recently in a group where the four of us geared up pretty quickly, we got our stuff, we ran into the dark zone and got the antivirals, and then we got to the extraction zone and called in the helicopter. The hunters came in as per usual, and we were all dead within 20 seconds. Now we'd spent probably 10-15 minutes, maybe half an hour at max, outside gearing up. But we were nowhere near prepared for this. And as a solo player, it's very important to remember that you have to overgear as such to know that you may have to fight multiple enemies. So what I do instead of rushing into the dark zone is I spend more time outside before going in. I will collect more materials, I'll collect more weapons, I'll collect more armor before I'm going to wander into the dark zone. Now this is a little bit of risk versus reward. I try to avoid any combat with high level enemies, especially solo. While I can take them on, the opportunities for me to get a reward out of it is probably not worth it, and you can find around the world that most of the stuff that you need you can collect anyway. So while everybody else is rushing into the dark zone to get the antivirus and trying to extract out, I'm still wandering around the world gathering these resources. And the reason is behind is I have to overgear to know that I'm going to have to take on multiple enemies. This is where the risk versus reward comes in. These people will more than likely get themselves killed, but they've already got the antivirals and they've got the flare guns, and this saves you the time and effort of having to craft these things or find these things specifically, because you can just go scoop them up from that area. But you also have to be very careful because you know once you wander in that area, there is going to be hunters in that area. So this is very important to craft those particular items that now will give you more advantage. And what I find is I'll break down all my gear that I don't need, and I'll basically go and use one of the safe houses in the dark zone to craft myself some gold level or high-end weapons and armor, so I'm more overgeared to take on the hunters. And the hunters will be very difficult. You can use distraction tactics, but they can put you down even still with higher level gear. So you have to remember to give yourself a bit of distance between them and yourself in case you are put down, because you have that opportunity to still revive yourself before they stun you and come and kill you. If you get too close, then that gives them the opportunity to basically put you out of the game permanently. But you can handle the hunters. It's just taking a bit of time and effort and getting used to it. I think they have a very limited sources of medkits that they can revive themselves just like we do. So once you wear them down to that resource, then you can easily take them out. But you also have to prepare yourself that you're going to have to take on multiple hunters. Because not only when you dispatch the hunter that the person at that location has brought in, you'll have your own hunter when you call in the extraction. So you have to remember to be very careful. Another tactic you can take is you wait till somebody else is doing an extraction and then you wander in that zone. You have an opportunity then that the hunters will be focused on that person, and that you could take them out and then take your hunter out when it comes in. And you have to remember, once you call in an extraction, the helicopter will wait there till that hunter's died. So you're not in any particular rush to try and kill that hunter off. The only concern you do have is if you have multiple people coming on you, they will bring in multiple hunters. My suggestion is, at that point in time, is actually bug out. Get out of that area, let them deal with the hunters, and then you move on to a different area. You can extract from another area. You don't necessarily need to extract from that area. I don't know if the rule applies still where your hunter, if it spawns in that area, will stay in that area now. Massive may have fixed that issue. But there was basically a tactic you could use where you could call in an extraction in one area, that your hunter would come to that area and then go to the next area and the hunter would not show up. But they may have fixed that at this point in time. One thing that's very important in this whole process is pulse. And also to remember things like the torrent can be hacked by the hunters. So they're very effective at the start, but can be hacked and used against you. So use a lot of stuff that's based around healing and basically seeing where the hunters are and keeping an idea. Using distraction tactics like grenades or stuns or anything along that lines to basically give you time to basically wear them down. You may get them down to a point where you think they're dead and they'll pop a med kit and then they'll basically be back up to full health again. So this is why it's very important to try and maintain that distance between you and the hunter. If you don't do that, you will be put down very quickly and they'll basically stun you at that point in time and basically take you out of the match. But don't get discouraged if you find that you fail the first few times. You'll get used to the rhythm of what the hunters are doing and how they're using the tactics, and you'll be able to then counter that and be able to get better at it. This is one of the things that is exciting about games, is getting in there and learning those tactics and learning how you can work around it. And there's nothing more satisfying than taking that hunter down, collecting all the rewards that you're going to get, and then going and extracting out. Nothing more exciting than basically being able to do that. And especially when you're doing it solo, because it's quite an accomplishment to do that. The video which I'm playing with this now is basically, I had to take on a hunter that somebody else had called in, and I almost got myself killed doing it. Then I had to take on my own hunter. Then another guy ran up to extract with me and brought in another hunter. So there's 3 hunters in the end that I had to help to take on or end up killing before we were able to extract. But it's very satisfying to be able to do that, complete it, and get out. Whether you get good rewards or not is another question whatsoever. And this rolls into what I want to talk about next, is the named gear and the named weapons, and some of the things that we're seeing happen within the game. The other thing that was released as a part of the 1.5 update was the new gear items. These are the things like the chest piece, mask, knee pads, backpack, gloves, and holster. Unfortunately for most people, they have set a very low percentage rate to actually obtain these items through doing specific tasks in the world. Running a certain mission has an opportunity to drop that. But from what we can see at this point in time, there is only about a 1% chance of having one of these pieces of items drop while running one of these missions. And this is very, very frustrating for a lot of people. While people have been lucky and managed to get it within a couple of missions, others have been going non-stop for many, many weeks now trying to get a piece of this equipment. Myself, I've been running Lexington to try and get the Barrett's bulletproof vest. I've actually given up at this point in time because I had spent close to 30 odd hours running the mission and probably close to nearly 200 attempts to get 0 items. And this is very, very frustrating, especially for more casual players that don't have time to pour that amount of effort into the game itself to try and get one of these named gear items. Now there is an opportunity to also get it through survival caches or proficiency caches, but again the percentage in those is extremely low and the opportunity to actually get it is so low that you probably won't get it. And this is one of the areas where I think Massive still needs to improve upon. Now that the rewards in general are dropping incredibly or a huge amount. I think they need to do something for these kind of things as well. Now, I know and I understand that these items are supposed to be rare items. They're not supposed to be dropping every single time you go do something. But the percentage they've set is just far too low. Now, if they could implement some kind of system that every time you're on a mission, the percentage, that chance that you have of getting that item is increased, or maybe even if they don't want to do that, is look at some way of having one of the vendors actually sell these items. Very similar to what Destiny has with the vendor called Zer that comes once a week, sells the exotic weapons and armor, and then people have an opportunity to buy it, guaranteed to have enough currency to be able to buy it. Now they could do something similar here in the Division. They could make it so that maybe one of these items is 1500 to 2000 Phoenix credits, and you have to go and save that up to be able to buy that item. Now, if people want to grind it out and buy multiples of the item, that's up to them. I guess the other problem that people are encountering is when they do get one of these drops, the rolls or the stat rolls on them can be very, very bad or terrible in such a way that, it wasn't even worthwhile grinding all the time to get it. Now, whether they actually make specific stat rolls or they make the statistics on them static so that when you do get one of these drops, it is worthwhile to have, is another thing they need to look at. And I think this is where Massive still needs to tweak the game a little bit, make this a little bit more accessible, or a way to grind through to actually get it. Because I tell you one thing now, doing the same mission over 200 times and not getting what you're looking for is a very frustrating experience, and one that has burned you out, and you think to yourself, I don't want to do this, I don't want to play this game whatsoever anymore, because you know what, I've just done it far too much. And I think they need to tweak it a little bit just to make it more rewarding for people. And I think Massive's done a really good job up to now of really tweaking the game. I was concerned coming into 1.5 about all my armor sets, and having to rebuild it up from scratch again, which I still think they should have some kind of progression system for armor to bring it forward. But the amount of loot that is dropping, it was very easy for me and very quick for me to be able to get a gear sets built up to what I wanted to. The new defense gear set or frontline gear set is so powerful and so much fun to be able to tank a lot of things now. I think it's actually a well thought out gear set in that regards. I know that they're now looking at the 1.6 patch and updating PvP, which is something I think needs to change as well. Not that it's an area that I specifically go into and do, but I think the people who are in there need to really look at how that can be tweaked for them. The one thing that I still have a little bit of annoyance with is too in regards to the named weapons themselves and the drop rate of them. Also, the fact that some of those weapons are still locked behind certain activities, like the Tommy gun is locked into the Dark Zone, and that the new Urban MDR is also part of survival. Now, I'd like to be able to see that accessible outside of that, even if it's such a small percentage chance, but give players another avenue to collect those things for those who can't or don't have the time to basically go in and do that. So let me know your views below in the comments. Let me know if you've also gone through the survival go mode and how fun or frustrating you found the experience, and also in regards to the named gear and weapons, whether you've had the same sort of similar experience where it's taken a long time to actually try and acquire something, or whether you've had no luck acquiring it at all. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch my video, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Thank you, bye.